Hey, what's up, y'all? So today we're doing some reactions. No, I don't do reactions, and this is the first time I'm actually thinking this idea. But today we're gonna start doing it. There's been some controversy in the freaking NBA because of two teams that's been in the playoffs for the past 3 years, Warriors and the Cavaliers. So now there's just crazy trades going on. Now we're just gonna watch this one video about winners and losers of the draft.
Today, and it was pretty crazy. Jimmy Butler is now a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that team is going to be so exciting to watch. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, and now Jimmy Butler. That's a pretty crazy big three in the Western Conference as well to challenge the Golden State Warriors, if they somehow can. I don't think they can, but Jimmy Butler is a really good player, an all-star. He'll help the Minnesota Timberwolves out. So in this video, we're going to be talking about 4 winners and 4 losers of the 2017 NBA Draft. And as you can imagine, the first winner I have are the Minnesota Timberwolves. Word on the street coming into the draft was that Tom Thibodeau wanted to get a veteran guy to help Minnesota speed up its rebuilding process pretty much. And I mean, let's be honest, he definitely did that. He got a man that he helped develop back in, 2011 when he drafted Jimmy Butler with the 30th overall pick. He put Jimmy Butler and said, come into our team. He was a bench player. He made a starter. Then he developed him, and now he's an all-star player. And hopefully he can become even better than that on the Minnesota Timberwolves, reuniting with Tibbs. So that's pretty cool. And, I mean, he did send Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, who I'm a really big fan of Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine is a really good player, and I think he will take time to develop. So for the Chicago Bulls, which we will talk about, you're not in the worst situation because I do think LaVine is really good, and Chris Dunn, he may take some time, but he's alright as well. We don't really know what he's about yet, but they also sent the number 7th overall pick, which turned into Markkanen, so I guess that's alright for Chicago. But for the Timberwolves, I mean, they get an all-star who is coming off his first All-NBA season, now in Minnesota. Butler gets to pair up with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, which obviously should allow the Timberwolves to get back into the playoffs for the first time since 2004, and for the first time without Kevin Garnett. The fact that Minnesota was able to get Jimmy Butler, a star player, and not completely get off the ground is pretty crazy. I mean, they didn't have to trade Karl Anthony Towns, they didn't have to trade Andrew Wiggins, and I think this is a really solid big three in the Western Conference, and the way the Wiggins and Towns are both developing into star players could really do some magical stuff in Minnesota, so I can't wait to watch them next season. So that's my first winner. The second winner that I have in the NBA draft was the Phoenix Suns. Now, weeks leading into the NBA draft, there were so many rumors about Josh Jackson. At one point, the Lakers wanted him at number 2, the Celtics wanted him at number 1, then they traded down to get number 3, and they wanted him at number 3, but then, in the end, Josh Jackson went at pick number 4, and I think Jackson is going to be the best fit alongside Devin Booker. And not only that, the Phoenix Suns now have a young core of Devin Booker, Josh Jackson, and Marquise Chris. Not to mention, they also have Dragon Bender, who they drafted last year, and he will take a little bit of time to develop. But they still got Eric Bledsoe as well. So I think for the Phoenix Suns, they're looking really good, and a Devin Booker, Josh Jackson, that's a pretty good matchup to go along in the Western Conference. And it's kind of annoying that all these teams are in the West, like Phoenix and Minnesota, but I guess we got Philly in the East. But I wish we had a few of those younger teams in the East, like Minnesota and teams like that, as well as 76ers, because I feel like in a few years they'll actually be able to challenge LeBron, whereas in the West they won't be able to challenge Golden State, if you know what I mean. But Phoenix looks really good with Josh Jackson, a super athletic wing who is perfect alongside Devin Booker, who I love Devin Booker. He'll be a really good player. And even if he doesn't have the star potential, he'll still be able to space the floor, and I reckon he'll have a big impact in Phoenix. So I think the Phoenix Suns, they do manage to get Josh Jackson, and just for that, they are winners in this. But the real winners, in my opinion, and this was not expected, the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings, I guess you could say, well, they haven't had the best draft history over the last few seasons. But this draft, I think, can change everything. Not only did the Kings get the man they targeted the whole time, Kentucky point guard De'Aaron Fox, who, in my opinion, he has that level of potential that most players in the NBA draft don't have. Literally, De'Aaron Fox is a really, really good player. With the 5th pick, I think that's a really good pick for the Sacramento Kings. And not to mention, they slid a few spots back and went to the 10th pick, but then they ended up trading that 10th pick for a 15th pick and a 20th pick. So, to be honest, I was actually pretty worried when they made that trade when I was watching the draft. But in the end, they actually did really, really, really well. They ended up getting Justin Jackson, who's a really good shooter and a small forward who they need, and Harry Giles. Now, Harry Giles, if you guys watch my NBA draft prospect video, the one I only made I think 2 days ago, Harry Giles was a guy that I wanted in Miami, and as you guys know, I'm a Miami Heat fan. I really, really wanted Harry Giles. They picked him up with the 20th pick, and in my opinion, he has probably the highest potential in the NBA draft. Maybe not the highest, but one of the highest. The only thing is, he got injured. And if he didn't get injured, I think he'd be a top 10 pick easy. So, a former top prospect who has been slow to recover from knee injuries with the 20th overall pick, that's a really, really smart and solid move by the Kings. So, they drafted 3 really good guys, and although, they could have had the 2 Kentucky boys, De'Aaron Fox is really good, Justin Jackson's pretty good, and Harry Giles has a lot of potential. So, the Sacramento Kings, in my opinion, they had the best draft. I mean, obviously Minnesota got Jimmy Butler, a star player, but really, the Sacramento Kings did really, really well, and don't be surprised to pair them up with Buddy Hield. The Kings could be amazing in a couple of years. Seriously, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Justin Jackson, and even, hopefully, I really hope that this man develops, Harry Giles. This team could be really good, along with Willie Cauley-Stein. That'll be a fun team in the future, for sure. And lastly, the last winner that I have are the Utah Jazz. Now, the Utah Jazz, they're in a sticky situation because they have Gordon Hayward, their star player, going into free agency. But they have done really, really well in this draft. The Utah Jazz had 2 late first-rounders. Package one with a forward reserve, Trey Lyles, I mean, he's alright, but he ain't crazy. To trade that up to the number 13 overall pick and take Donovan Mitchell. If you guys watched my NBA draft prospects video, I talked about Donovan Mitchell. He was pretty good. He's just an average shooting guard, and he looks alright. But the fact that they had 2 late first rounders, and they only had to give up Trey Lyles in one of them for Donovan Mitchell, that is amazing, I think, for the Utah Jazz. And they are facing the potential departures of George Hill and obviously Gordon Hayward in free agency. But Utah jumped on the chance to take a guard anyway who can play on and off the ball and could replace either one of the 2, George Hill or Gordon Hayward, but I think it's obvious that he'll most likely replace George Hill if he leaves. And he's just a really solid player. Now, he ain't crazy, but he's alright. Donovan Mitchell seems like a decent player, and I really don't know why the Denver Nuggets took that trade at all. I don't think they need another big man in Trey Lyles, so in the end, I think one of the losers was the Denver Nuggets, for sure, but I guess we'll talk about that in a second. But I think the Utah Jazz, they made a very, very, very solid trade right there, just getting the number 13 overall pick. And then late in the first round, they also grabbed a few spots up and drafted Tony Bradley. So that's another decent move for the Utah Jazz, who didn't seem like they were going to do anything going into the draft, but ended up with the 13th overall pick and Tony Bradley. That's pretty solid for them. So I think they did alright. Now, for my losers, let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. Why in the world did you get Trey Lyles? You gave up the number 13th overall pick. You could have really used that number 13th overall pick. Harry Giles, why didn't you go after him? Yeah, I get it. You're going with a young team. I don't even know what you're doing. I really don't. Why would you get Trey Lyles? For real. Denver, I don't even know what you're doing, but I don't like what you're doing. And Emmanuel Mudiay, he's alright, but he ain't crazy. Jamal Murray, I like him. I think he's a good player. Jokic, I like him as well. So, what are you doing? Why would you trade that 13th overall pick? You know what? I'm not even going to talk about that anymore. It just makes me pissed off. I got a few Denver Nuggets friends, and they weren't happy about that either. So let's just get on to the next team, the Chicago Bulls. See, this is where I disagree with a lot of other people. I do think that the Bulls obviously lost the trade, and I do think that they are one of the so-called losers in this NBA draft. But don't think that that's a fully bad thing, because had any other team traded away their star player, I think they'd be in the losers column as well, don't you think? So the Bulls, yes, they're in the losers column, but don't think they really took an L in this trade. They might have took an L, but it might have just been a minor one, and in my opinion, it is a really minor L. The only L that I think that really happened here in this trade is that the Bulls also gave up the number 16th overall pick. Had the Bulls not traded away the number 16th overall pick and actually kept their pick, they would have the 16th pick, the 7th pick, Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn. Now that right there, that seems like a pretty solid trade to me for a team that was looking to trade Jimmy Butler this whole time. Don't you agree? So yes, the Bulls took an L, but they didn't take the biggest loss out of all the teams in this NBA draft, in my opinion. That is just my opinion. They were going to have to trade Jimmy Butler, and they did. They traded him to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we talked about the Timberwolves, so let's talk about the Bulls. They got Zach LaVine, who I think, Zach LaVine, I love him. I think Zach LaVine is a really good player. He's one of those guys where when he came in the league, I was really excited to watch him because he could dunk. But as I've actually watched him, I realize how much he has improved. His work ethic is crazy. He has really improved on his jump shot. The guy can shoot. He can seriously shoot, and I'm not even kidding. He can really shoot. So watch out for Zach LaVine after he comes back from his injury. Chris Dunn, people give him so much slack. I mean, Chris Dunn, man, he's only been in the NBA for 1 year. He got drafted last year. Give him a chance as well. So I don't think Chicago really did that bad. They may have not drafted the best player, in my opinion. I mean, they ended up getting Markkanen, I don't really know about him. He seems like he's alright. He's got a little bit of potential here and there, but it's unclear if he'll be able to be a high-level, long-term player for Chicago. And the real reason why they lost this trade is because they also gave up that 16th overall pick, which I wasn't too sure about. I felt like they could have actually kept that 16th overall pick and just traded Jimmy Butler, but that's where I think they lost in this trade. The next team that I think took an L, but this is really harsh, man. This is really harsh, the Boston Celtics. And the reason I think the Celtics is because they need to make a trade sooner or later, man. You can't just keep getting these young guys and young draft picks, but not trading them, man. You need to do something. I thought this was the time they'd get Paul George, Kristaps Porzingis, somebody to help them beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals, but it didn't happen. They ended up trading Markelle Fultz for, Jason Tatum? I don't know about that, man. That's pretty much what they did in this year's NBA draft. They just traded down. So, from the Boston Celtics, I'm hoping you have a big free agency, because I don't know what Danny Ainge is doing at this point, and I really thought they were going to make a trade, and so did a lot of people, and that's the reason why I have them taking an L as well. The next team. And funnily enough, this is not a team. This is a man. In fact, he's my favorite player. So most of you guys already know. But he took a massive L in this NBA draft. Dwayne Wade. I'm sorry, man. It's not your fault by any means. It's the Chicago Bulls' fault. But he took a massive L. For those that don't know, on Wednesday, Wade opted into his final year with Chicago. He opted into year 2 of his contract in Chicago, and on Thursday, he lost Jimmy Butler. Now imagine that. On Wednesday you sign, on Thursday you lose your best mate in Chicago. And now he's stuck on a team that is building for the future, not the present, and a guy that is 35 years old. He came close to 41 wins last year and about to win 21 this year? Surely he takes an L here. Why did he opt in on Wednesday? Why didn't he wait until the draft was over? I guess he really chased the money, man, but I think a lot of teams you would be surprised. Someone would have offered him that amount of money to come to their team. So I think now Wade is in a sticky situation. He's 35 years old and almost surely won't be around to see that part of the future that Chicago is trying to build. So now he has to ride a full season, which will likely just be pretty much a wasted season for Wade, who now will turn 36 the next time he can sign with a new team. So the thing now is that he can negotiate some sort of buyout with Chicago, but man, that is a sticky situation, and I'm sorry to see that, man. I love Dwayne Wade. As you guys know, my favorite player. He took a massive L for signing that contract on Wednesday and returning to Chicago, who now are building for the future, and for a guy like Wade who wants to win, I just can't see that being a good thing for him. So he took an L on this one. And that's 4 teams that took an L. So if you guys enjoyed this video, definitely hit that subscribe button. If you like the NBA, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Let's aim for 3,000 likes. That would be amazing. And if you guys want to watch tomorrow's video, Let me know down below in the comment section and hit that subscribe button if you're ready for it. I'm out. Peace.
Well, okay, that's it. Okay, Dwayne Wade. I know that's hometown, but I mean, like, now you need one more ring before you go. No, that's what you want. But, bro, you chose another year. Unless you have somebody that's coming up there with you, you are scared. Levine to Bulls? I thought Levine would stay and then they get Jimmy Butler and become like sort of a super team. Kind of like how the Lakers always are. But yeah. Next video we probably should watch about that D'Angelo Russell one, because I think he went to Brooklyn. Probably the dumbest shit ever, but yeah. Anyways, so that's it for this. There's gonna be some more reactions like this in the future, and yeah. So